Chosen one? No, not by accident, not by some wandering click or a distracted scroll. You were sent here, not just to watch, not just to listen, but to remember. There is a sacred rhythm behind everything, even now, behind the ache in your chest, behind the silent questions you ask when no one's watching, behind the way your spirit leans forward when you hear certain words. This is not the beginning of something new. It's the unveiling of what's always been. You've never quite fit into the mold, have you? You learned how to mimic their walk, match their tone, silence your voice, just enough to not be noticed, but never enough to feel whole. And still, even in the mimicry, your soul whispered, "You are not one of them. You never were." You were placed among the noise to awaken the signal, because some messages aren't spoken, they're remembered. And that stirring in you right now, that ache in your bones, that's not confusion. That's alignment. That's truth returning to its rightful home. This message doesn't find you because you're weak. It finds you because you're ready. You've carried weight that would have crushed others, walked through shadows that never should have let you out. And still, something in you chose light, even when the world didn't offer any, especially then. Because chosen ones aren't made when everything is perfect. They are revealed in the ruins. They rise from the middle of the fire, and they don't rise clean. They rise marked, not with scars, but with signatures of survival that no one else can read. But heaven does, eternity does. You are recognized in realms you've never even seen, because what you carry didn't start with you. It began long before breath ever touched your lungs. You didn't just come here to live. You came to remember who you were before the world began convincing you otherwise. The systems tried to name you. The silence tried to erase you. The shadows tried to claim you. But none of it worked. Why? Because truth cannot be unspoken once it remembers its voice. And today, it remembers. This is not your origin story. This is your ignition point. The moment the inner you steps forward and the hidden you gets revealed. You weren't made to fit. You were made to shake foundations. You were made to carry codes embedded deep within your frequency. Truths that break cycles, dissolve lies, and awaken sleeping spirits. That's why you've felt heavy lately, not because you're weak, but because the calling inside you can no longer stay dormant. It's pressing against your chest, not as pressure, but as prophecy. And you, yes, you, are the fulfillment of that prophecy in motion. The path was never supposed to make sense. You were trained in silence, tested in isolation, and prepared in places no one saw. That wasn't punishment. It was preservation. You were hidden, not because you were forgotten, but because what's sacred must be shielded until it's strong enough to stand in the light. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air recognize you before anyone else did? That's not imagination, that's alignment. And if something deep inside you felt seen during this message, don't let it fade into silence. Speak back. Comment below, "I remember who I am." Let the world witness your awakening, and if this stirred something in your soul, subscribe. Not for content, but for confirmation, because this space isn't built for followers. It's built for the ones who never fit silence. Until now. You didn't find this message. It found you, and it's only just beginning. And now the light is not just around you, it's breaking through you. You don't need validation, you don't need applause, you don't need a title. You only need to show up as the version of yourself that's been buried beneath the ashes of almost. The one who doesn't flinch anymore. The one who stopped asking for permission. The one who now realizes this whole time, it wasn't the world rejecting you. It was your spirit rejecting anything less than destiny. And your destiny, it's not waiting. It's walking straight into the room, through you. You're not here to entertain, you're not here to convince. You're here to shift the atmosphere by simply existing in your truth. And yes, that will cost you. Some will fall away, some will misunderstand. Some will try to minimize what they can't define. Let them. You were not sent for comfort. You were sent for alignment, for release, for activation. You were designed to echo something eternal. And when your voice finds its frequency, when your walk finally matches your knowing, then and only then does the earth begin to respond. Not with noise, with movement. Doors begin to recognize you. Seasons begin to adjust to you. Even the wind starts to carry your name back to places you forgot you came from, because all of creation has been waiting for you to remember. The old patterns, they don't fit anymore. The old version of you, it can't hold what's coming. This is not about reinvention, it's about resurrection, and every part of you that felt forgotten, overlooked, silenced, it's standing up now, one breath at a time, one word at a time, one bold, sacred moment at a time. The fear isn't louder than your knowing. The doubt doesn't outweigh your clarity. You don't need to rehearse your worth anymore. It's not in your past. It's not in their perception. It's in your presence. And your presence right now is doing something that hasn't been done in generations. You are interrupting cycles. You are shifting bloodlines. You are awakening what has been asleep for far too long. That's why the pressure was heavy. That's why the nights were long. That's why the silence felt endless. Not because you were being punished, but because you were being positioned. So now speak, move, create, not from fear, but from the knowing that what is meant for you cannot be missed, and what is not for you will never hold you again. Not because you forced it, but because you finally remembered who you are, and chosen one. This is only the beginning. Chosen one, have you ever noticed how people look at you without knowing why? Not out of judgment, but out of something closer to reverence, mixed with confusion. They don't quite understand what they're seeing, but they feel it, a frequency, a fire, a presence that doesn't beg to be noticed, and yet cannot be ignored. That's not charisma, that's not charm, that's energy, and not just any kind, it's remembrance energy, the kind that stirs the soul of others and reminds them of something they once knew but buried long ago. You've been walking through this world like a spark trapped in skin, trying to shrink, trying to contain something that was never meant to be small, and every time you tried to hide it, life pushed you harder. Because this flame inside you, it isn't decorative, it's disruptive, it's dangerous to illusions, to systems, to anything that feeds on sleep. You've been misunderstood not because you're broken, but because you're coded differently. You carry something holy in your silence, something ancient in your walk. That's why they stare. That's why strangers speak their secrets to you without knowing your name. That's why you've never been able to keep relationships that require you to play small. It's not that you're too much. It's that you can no longer pretend you are not made of thunder and light. And yes, sometimes it hurts, because you've spent so much time trying to be safe when your very nature was designed to set fire to falsehood. You were never meant to blend in. You were sent to reveal, to wake people up with your energy, to stir the sleeping with your silence, to mirror truth in a world that traded it for comfort, and that comes with a price. You've paid it in isolation, you've paid it in heartbreak, you've paid it in the currency of nights spent wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe you were too strange, too intense, too wild. But now you're beginning to see it, aren't you? That the pain wasn't rejection. It was redirection, that every place you were pushed out of was never able to hold the gravity of your presence anyway, that every room that silenced you was doing you a favor, so you'd finally learn to listen to your own voice. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be molded. You were meant to break molds, and now you are. Every step you take in truth is shattering the structures that were never real to begin with. Every breath you take in alignment is dissolving the illusions that tried to cage you. Every no you speak, every boundary you uphold, every time you walk away from what doesn't resonate, the universe rearranges itself. Why? Because chosen ones don't follow paths, they forge them. And the path you're forging now, it's not for the faint of heart. It's for the willing, The ones who would rather walk alone in truth than be embraced in a lie. The ones who know that the weight of divine fire is better than the numbness of societal approval. The ones who stopped negotiating their worth and started embodying their essence. And that's you. Even when you feel uncertain, even when you still cry behind closed doors, even when your courage feels like a whisper instead of a roar, you're still moving, still showing up, still breaking what needs to be broken, not out of anger, but out of alignment. And every time you do, your future breathes a little easier. The road ahead gets a little clearer. The noise gets a little quieter, because when you move from truth, creation listens. Doors open not because you force them, but because your vibration demands it. Opportunities align not because you chase them, but because your presence attracts them. And people begin to shift when they stand near you. They feel something that can't be explained, a sense of safety, a glimpse of clarity, a flicker of remembering. That's the fire you carry. It doesn't just warm, it illuminates. It doesn't just glow, it awakens, and it was never meant to be contained. So stop trying to fit, stop trying to explain, stop diluting yourself to make others comfortable with their sleep. Because they are not your responsibility, but your fire, that is, your gift, that is, your alignment, that is. You were never asked to save the world. You were asked to be yourself, so that the world would remember how to save itself. And that begins with one decision: to no longer fear the magnitude of your own presence, to walk into rooms knowing you are the shift, to stand in silence knowing your being is the message. Because it is. You are not a sermon, you are a signal. And the ones meant to hear it, they already do. They feel you before you speak. They find themselves drawn in without knowing why, because truth always calls to truth. And the real ones, the ones carrying ancient echoes just like you, they will rise when they sense your frequency. Not out of worship, but out of recognition. The remembering has begun, chosen one. And you are the spark that sets it all in motion. So burn, not for applause, not for attention. Burn to be free, because your fire is not a threat. It's a permission slip for others to reclaim theirs. This is how the world shifts, not through war, but through those who remember who they are and refuse to forget again. Chosen one, there's something you need to know, not just with your mind, but with your whole being. You were never invisible. You were hidden. And there's a difference. Invisible means forgotten. Hidden means protected. What they called your silence was really shielding. What they saw as your delay was actually divine preservation. You were wrapped in a season of stillness, not to be ignored, but to be prepared. Because what you carry couldn't be exposed too early. The world has a way of devouring things it doesn't understand. And you, chosen one, were never meant to be understood. You were meant to be revealed, bit by bit, layer by layer, until the truth beneath all the pretending could finally breathe. You've tried to show yourself before, haven't you? You opened your heart just wide enough for someone to peer in, and what did they do? They misread it, mishandled it, made you question if maybe you were too open, too soft, too much. But softness is not weakness. Sensitivity is not a flaw, it's calibration. You feel what others block out, you sense what others deny, and that's why your path has been lonelier. Because to carry what you carry, you had to learn how to sit in silence without losing your song. You had to learn how to be unseen without forgetting your own reflection. You had to learn how to be misunderstood without twisting yourself into someone else's comfort zone. All of that was training, not punishment. The late nights, the unanswered prayers, the almosts that turned into neverminds. You weren't being left behind, you were being aligned, because the version of you that's rising now, it doesn't apologize for being whole. It doesn't shrink to soothe insecure voices. It doesn't carry shame disguised as humility. No, this version of you remembers that silence isn't the absence of presence. It's the presence of power. You were growing in the dark, like roots beneath the soil, like stars hidden by daylight. You were learning how to stabilize your truth before sharing it. You were learning how to walk with wisdom before being seen by the crowd, because being visible without being anchored is a dangerous thing. But now your anchor has settled deep, and the winds that once knocked you over can only stir your strength. This is your emergence, not as someone new, but as someone true. You don't owe the world an explanation. You don't need a microphone to be heard. You don't need credentials to be credible. Your very existence is proof of a plan that transcends logic. And it's unfolding even now. The things that used to trigger your doubt no longer touch your frequency. The places that used to feel like home now feel too small. And the people who couldn't hold your depth, they're being gently released. Not with bitterness, with clarity. Because now you see it. Some of them weren't rejecting you, they were rejecting the truth that your presence revealed within themselves. Your light wasn't too bright. It just hit too close to their shadow. But even that served its purpose. Even rejection was redirection. Even silence was a signal. Even closed doors were sacred markers, guiding you away from places that could not honor your becoming. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not buried. You are blooming quietly, powerfully, righteously, and the bloom doesn't rush. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It simply becomes, and now you're becoming. You're not searching for a path. You're realizing you are the path. Every lesson, every heartbreak, every detour led you here. Not to perform, but to embody. Not to impress, but to awaken. Your breath alone is permission for others to remember who they are. Your gaze alone dismantles lies they didn't know they believed. That's the weight of your presence. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. And the ones who can feel it, they already know. They find comfort in your words before you speak them. They exhale around your spirit without understanding why. Because you carry something ancient, something real, something the world forgot it needed until you walked in. You were hidden, chosen one, but never forgotten, and now it's time to step forward, not with arrogance, with certainty, not with noise, with clarity, not to prove, but to be, because the light you carry isn't meant to sit behind closed doors anymore. It's meant to ripple, to resonate, to awaken, and it starts now. Chosen one. Have you noticed it? The shift. The way the air feels different when you walk into the room, the way time seems to pause just for a second when you're fully in your truth. The old rhythm has cracked and something deeper, older, has taken its place. You're not waiting for alignment anymore. You are the alignment. The moment you stopped betraying your own frequency, the universe adjusted its course to meet you, not because you demanded it, but because you finally remembered. You were never meant to chase what already belongs to you. Everything that is truly yours is already moving toward you, not by force, not by performance, but by resonance. Because what is for you knows your soul. And your soul, it has a sound, a pulse, a memory written into the design of the stars. And now that you're walking in it, even the unseen recognizes you. That's why things have felt unstable lately, not because you're falling apart, but because old structures are crumbling in the presence of your clarity. You've been shedding identities that were built from survival. You've been releasing roles that no longer fit your vibration. And yes, it's disorienting, but it's also sacred. You are not being emptied, you are being recalibrated. So when the blessings arrive, they meet the version of you that can actually hold them. You no longer have to act like you know your worth. You've become it. That's why people are shifting around you. Some can't hear you anymore, not because you stopped speaking, but because your frequency changed. You're no longer echoing the noise. You're resonating with truth, and truth doesn't scream. It hums, it draws in what's real and repels what never was. You don't need to explain your growth. You don't need to translate your transformation. You don't need to soften your presence so others can swallow it. Because those who are meant for your light will never ask you to dim it. Let the rest fall away. Let the connections that were built on illusion dissolve with grace. They served their purpose. But now you're walking with precision. Not everyone is meant to walk this chapter with you, and that's not loss. That's alignment. The old narrative said you were behind, that you missed your window, that too much time had passed, but what that voice never understood is that time bends for truth, and truth doesn't arrive late. It arrives right when it's ready to be received. And you're ready now, not because everything's perfect, but because you've learned how to stand even in the storm, because you've learned that the winds don't shake what's rooted in the eternal. Your peace no longer depends on outcomes. Your faith no longer waits for proof, and your movement no longer waits for applause. You've crossed into a frequency where the internal leads the external, where knowing comes before seeing, and feeling comes before form. And in that space, chosen one, miracles happen. Not because you performed enough, but because you aligned enough, because you stayed when it was easier to leave, because you listened when no one else understood the language, because you kept choosing truth even when it cost you. That's what made you a vessel. That's what prepared you to carry what's coming next. And what's coming, it's not just a breakthrough, it's a revealing of who you've always been beneath the noise, of what's always been waiting behind the delay, of the power that was never lost, only sleeping. But now that power is awake, and nothing can put it back to sleep. You may not see the full picture yet, but you feel the pull. You feel the soft unraveling of what no longer fits. You feel the gentle tug of destiny calling you not to strive, but to surrender, to open, to allow. Because alignment doesn't require force, it requires presence. And you, chosen one, are more present than you've ever been. Your eyes have cleared, your hands have released, your heart has made space. And now the current that once carried you into silence is carrying you into visibility, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that activates truth in others just by being seen. Because when you show up in your truth, others remember theirs. When you walk boldly in your path, others find the courage to take theirs. When you speak with alignment, your voice becomes a mirror, not to ego, but to essence. This is the realignment, not of the world around you, but of the world within you, and as within, so without. Everything is shifting. You can feel it, can't you? Something is opening. Something is approaching, not a rescue, a reunion, with your purpose, with your power, with the version of you who never stopped believing, even in the dark. This is not the arrival point. This is the unlocking, and what it opens, only your soul truly knows. But one thing is certain, you will no longer chase, you will attract, you will no longer bend, you will stand, you will no longer ask if you're worthy, you will embody the answer, because this is alignment, and you, chosen one, are finally in position. Chosen one, pause, look at where you are now. Look at who you've become, not in titles, not in roles, not in how others define you, but in essence. Can you feel it? The version of you who once waited for signs is now the sign. The one who once begged for belonging now creates the space others long to enter. And it didn't happen all at once, did it? No lightning bolt, no grand parade, just a slow, quiet, unstoppable becoming. You grew in silence, you shifted in stillness, and now you've outgrown the shell they taught you to live in. Not because it was wrong, but because you were never meant to stay hidden inside it forever. The truth is, the old you had to die, not because it was bad, but because it was limited. It was shaped by survival, formed around fear, trained to shrink, to smile when hurting, to bend when breaking. But even in those days, even when you thought you were pretending well, something in you whispered, "This is not the end." And it wasn't, because endings are often just beginnings dressed in disguise. You were never being punished. You were being broken open. So the truth of you, the vast, sacred, infinite you, could finally come to the surface. You've seen too much now to go back. You've touched too much truth to forget. You've walked through fire and come out with embers still glowing in your chest. You don't tremble at the storm anymore. You are the storm, not because you destroy, but because you clear. Because your presence disrupts what's false and realigns what's asleep. That's why people react the way they do around you. Some pull closer, some pull away, but all of them feel it. Your energy does not ask permission. It reminds, it awakens. And awakening? It's uncomfortable for those who still wish to sleep. But your job is not to make them comfortable. Your job is to be fully holy, unapologetically. Because when you are fully yourself, you become a mirror. Not everyone likes what they see, but the ones who are ready will recognize it as home. And chosen one, you are becoming a home for others. A place where truth breathes, where fear dissolves, where love, real love, not performance, can actually grow. But don't forget, before you could carry others, you had to carry yourself. Through nights no one saw, through wounds no one validated, through battles no one celebrated. And you did. You kept walking, you kept listening, even when the voice inside you felt faint. You kept choosing light, even when darkness was the easier option. And now you're standing in a kind of strength that can't be taught. It can only be earned. Your silence has become your sword. Your peace has become your power. And your story, it's not a tragedy. It's a template for those who are just beginning to wake up. They'll look to you, not for answers, but for presence. They won't need your perfection. They'll need your authenticity, and you'll give it. Not because you want praise, but because you remember what it was like to feel lost and still rise. That's what separates you. That's what marks you. Not that you're better, but that you chose truth when it cost you everything. And now you're no longer reacting, you're responding, no longer performing, you're embodying, no longer questioning, you're knowing. This is the realm of the awakened, and it's not crowded, it's not loud, it's not filled with noise. It's filled with clarity, with intentionality, with depth. And that's what you are now, deep. You've always felt things others couldn't name. Now you understand why. You've always seen through the masks others wore. Now you don't wear one yourself. You've always heard what wasn't being said. Now you speak what needs to be heard, and that changes everything. But not everyone will celebrate it. Some will accuse you of changing, of being distant, of being too intense, too focused, too aware. Let them, they're not wrong. You have changed. You are distant from what drains you. You are intense in your clarity. You are focused on your alignment. You are aware of what costs your peace, and you no longer negotiate your access to it. You are not who you used to be. And that is exactly the point. Because the former version of you, while sacred, while necessary, was never meant to carry the weight of what's next. This version, this clear, grounded, deeply aligned version, it was forged for it, crafted through trial, purified through fire, tested through silence, and now it walks without needing to explain, because explanation is for the unsure, and you, chosen one, are no longer unsure. You are anchored, and the world, it's adjusting to your new frequency. Don't shrink. Don't soften, don't stall. This is not the time for hesitation. This is the time for presence. And presence doesn't beg to be accepted. It simply arrives. You have arrived. Chosen one. Take a breath. Not the kind you've been taught to take. Not the shallow kind, the kind you borrow when you're trying to survive, but a real one, a breath that sinks all the way down into the oldest parts of you, a breath that reaches beyond your lungs and into your memory, because something ancient is waking up. And it's not coming from outside you, it's rising from within. You don't need more signs. You don't need more proof. The evidence is already in your bones. You've walked through fire that was never meant to spare you. You've stood in rooms that tried to swallow you whole. You've smiled when it wasn't safe. You've stayed quiet when your voice could have shattered the room. You've watched others be celebrated for wearing masks while you were judged for your truth. And yet, you never stopped becoming. This is what they never understood about you. You weren't just surviving, you were storing power. You weren't just hurting, you were harvesting wisdom. You weren't just breaking, you were being rebuilt, piece by sacred piece, until even your scars became altars, until even your wounds whispered prayers, until even your silence roared like thunder. And now the world doesn't know what to do with you, because you've stopped asking how to be received and started showing up as you are. And who you are now, you don't bend, you don't beg. You don't barter your light just to feel wanted, because you finally understand you were never sent here to be understood. You were sent here to be, to walk as a living vibration of remembrance, to carry truth in your very posture, to move through this world like a key, unlocking what's been locked for far too long. And now the locks are trembling, because the energy in you is undeniable, unmistakable, uncontainable. You no longer walk into rooms wondering if you belong. You know you do, not because of ego, but because of alignment, not because of status, but because of spirit. And spirit doesn't ask for space, it creates it. You are a space maker, you are a cycle breaker, you are a silence shatterer. You are not just light. You are the storm that clears the sky so the light can enter. You are the one they didn't see coming. Not because you were hiding, but because you were being hidden for this moment, for this now. All the nights you questioned your worth, all the days you carried invisible weight, all the prayers that returned without answers, none of it was wasted. Every unanswered cry echoed into eternity and returned as strength. Every delay became your deliverance. Every betrayal became a bridge. And now the bridges are strong enough to walk across. Now, the gates are open, and you don't have to force them open. You only have to step through. This is what you were made for. Not perfection, not applause, not performance, but presence. You don't have to convince anyone. You don't have to explain the call on your life. You don't have to edit the way your soul was designed. You just have to live it, breathe it, be it, because your energy alone shifts realities. Your presence alone breaks patterns. Your truth alone sets captives free. You carry codes, not in your words, but in your being, not in your logic, but in your light. And you're no longer afraid of what that might cost. You're no longer clinging to the comfort of staying small. You're no longer praying for the pain to stop. You're praying for your power to rise. And it is, in quiet ways, in loud ways, in ways that don't need to be seen to be sacred, because chosen ones don't rise for attention. They rise because truth refuses to stay buried. And you are truth in motion. You are memory in flesh. You are eternity made visible. You are not just alive. You are awake. And the awakened carry a vibration the sleeping cannot understand. So don't be discouraged when some cannot meet your depth. Don't shrink when others turn away. You are not meant to be for everyone. You are meant to be true, to walk through the world like a reminder. Not with noise, but with presence. Not with volume, but with vision. You are not here to beg the world to change. You are here to become the change, and in doing so, everything around you begins to shift. Because when one chosen one stands in their full truth, the frequency of the entire room changes. The atmosphere bends, the silence listens, the future leans in, and right now, the future is listening to you. It's watching to see what you'll do with this clarity, with this courage, with this call. You can feel it, can't you? The energy gathering behind your spine, the quiet fire building in your chest, the certainty. That doesn't come from knowledge, but from knowing, from remembering what your soul signed up for before you were ever born. And what was it? To carry light, to disrupt darkness, to walk as a map that others would read without even knowing why they were drawn to you. And now it's happening. This is the unveiling. This is the emergence. This is the moment your insides become your outside, where everything you've believed in silence becomes a visible roar, and you don't need anyone to validate it, because heaven already did. The angels already witnessed it. The stars already aligned for it, and your soul. It already said yes a long time ago. So stop waiting, stop doubting, stop hiding. This world doesn't need your carefulness. It needs your wholeness. It needs your eyes to stay open. It needs your heart to stay soft. It needs your walk to stay true. Because when you walk in your truth, others remember how to walk in theirs, and that's how the world heals. Not through force, through frequency, and you, chosen one, are the frequency. So speak with your life, stand with your essence, shine without apology. Let your presence echo beyond your name. Let your footsteps carry a rhythm that reminds others they're not alone. You are not just stepping into your destiny, you are activating destiny in others just by being who you are. And the most powerful part? You're just getting started. So lift your head, straighten your spine, feel the fire in your blood and the memory in your breath. This is not the end. This is the emergence. This is what you were made for. Now, rise. Not later. Now, chosen one, what? If I told you the shift has already begun, not outside you but through you? What if every breath you've taken in silence stirred the very foundations of what was meant to change? What if your very existence is the activation point of a movement you can't yet see? You've been asking, when will it happen? And the answer has been echoing back from eternity. It already is. Because movements don't begin with crowds. They begin with whispers in the hearts of those who remember. And you, beloved soul, have remembered. You've remembered who you are without needing the world's permission. You've remembered that the weight you carry is sacred, not a burden, but a signal. You've remembered that the ache inside of you wasn't a flaw. It was your soul stretching to make space for the purpose it always knew you'd step into. You no longer walk hoping to find the path. You are the path. Every step you take in truth becomes a bridge for someone else to walk upon. Every boundary you hold with love becomes a mirror to someone who forgot their own worth. Every no you speak to misalignment becomes a yes to a future that's been waiting on your courage. You have shifted timelines, not by force, but by frequency. Because you carry something this world forgot it needed. Clarity in the midst of confusion. Stillness in the noise. Integrity in the age of image. You are not becoming powerful. You are remembering that you already were. And the reason some doors closed. They weren't locked against you. They were held shut by grace until your hands were steady enough to open them with wisdom, until your eyes were clear enough to recognize what was holy and what was hollow. And now you see, now you feel, now you know. This is not about becoming someone else. This is about removing what was never yours. This is about shedding the dust of expectation, the weight of other people's fear, the stories they wrote on your skin. Before you knew how to say no, you are not those stories. You never were. You are the flame beneath them, and now you are burning your way back to your original design. Chosen one. This is your moment to stop circling the question and start becoming the answer. You are not here to get it right in their eyes. You are here to walk in what has always been right in the eyes of the divine. The voice that once whispered, "Wait," now says, "Walk." The path that once felt hidden now clears with every breath of integrity you take. You are no longer just rising, you are revealing. The heavens have not forgotten you. They've been waiting for you to see what they've always known, that you were never lost and never behind, never abandoned. You were in preparation, you were in formation. You were in the exact hands that wrote your soul's assignment long before the earth gave you a name. So walk like the promise is already fulfilled. Stand like the light is already shining. Speak like your words awaken things, because they do, because you do, not by trying, just by being chosen one. You may think the moment has passed, that the great unveiling already came, and now you are only left with stillness. But hear this, The silence after revelation is not emptiness, it is echo. An echo of everything your soul has always known. An echo of every yes you gave when no one heard. An echo of who you've always been, finally catching up with who you are now. The shift didn't happen once. It's still happening. You are still unfolding. You are still opening, like the final petals of a flower, no longer afraid to bloom in full view. And yes, it's vulnerable, too. Be seen, to stand tall without armor, to speak without rehearsing your safety, to love without withholding your depth. But you were never called to safety. You were called to sacredness. And sacred things are rarely easy, but always worth it. You have not reached the end. You have reached the edge of a whole new becoming, and on this edge, you are not asked to leap blindly. You are asked to remember that you have wings, wings not formed in ease, but in endurance. Not in applause, but in solitude. Not in comfort, but in covenant with something greater, something eternal. That covenant still holds, even now, even when you feel the tremble in your chest, even when the old doubts tap on your shoulder in the dark, even when no one claps as you walk toward your next becoming. You are not moved by applause anymore. You are moved by truth, by alignment, by presence, and presence doesn't beg to be believed. It remains. Like a mountain, like a temple, like a soul that knows it has already returned to the place. It never truly left. You are home now, not in a location, but in your being, in your truth, in your frequency. This is where you create from. This is where you move from. This is where your legacy begins, not in doing more, but in becoming more of what's real. You don't need to outrun the past. It taught you. You don't need to decode the future. It's forming around you even now. You only need to stay awake, to keep choosing what is real over what is loud, what is sacred over what is shiny, what is eternal over what is easy. That is the path of the chosen, not the straight path, not the praised path, but the path where the soul breathes free, and you, chosen one, are finally breathing like someone who knows. This world doesn't complete you, it reflects you. This calling doesn't crush you, it crowns you. And this moment, it doesn't define you, it unveils you.